What we've done is we project ourselves onto him. The fact is, maybe he's not some sort of devil or Jesus character. Maybe he's just a guy trying to do the right thing.
But on principle, we did not want him to act.
I'm not saying he shouldn't act. I'm saying he shouldn't act unilaterally.
What are we talking about here then? Must there be a Superman?
There is.
Whenever a person says, I dislike Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, I usually try to find out why. Amongst the usual complaints of Batman kills, Superman isn't smiling, and Jesse Eisenberg was bad as Lex, I usually try to get that person to further explain. If looking at the film from a technical standpoint, Dawn of Justice is a sequel to Man of Steel. Not to downplay Batman's inclusion, that's just how it is. When I see people criticize Dawn of Justice for being humorless, I look directly at the Marvel Cinematic films, because since humor worked ever so well for the first Guardians of the Galaxy, comedy and jokes have become a thing for the films, releasing up to now even with Thor Ragnarok. But even though Dawn of Justice does in fact contain humor,
crime wave in Gotham. Other breaking news. Water. Wet.
did Dawn of Justice need a shit ton of humor non-stop in the first place? Would humor and one-liners have made Dawn of Justice more feasible for the critics that mercilessly tore apart Dawn of Justice? With a masked vigilante dressed as a bat and a god like Kryptonian at odds, humor and jokes are the last thing on my mind. That isn't to say that they are not welcome, but the issue at hand is no laughing matter. And many have taken issue with the plot. Well, let's look at it. You have Bruce Wayne, who has been at war with criminals in Gotham for over 20 years, having just witnessed Zod and Superman's climatic fight scene, and having suffered the loss of his comrade. So understandably, he's lost faith in good and what it means. And here's this Superman who, as Bruce sees, is a threat to all of us. So what's the issue? Batman kills? Yes, he sure does. And to be fair, we can't act like Batman hasn't killed before or let people die. Many have argued Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot to be the best parts of Dawn of Justice, and I agree that they are one of the best things about Dawn of Justice as a movie. So it's not so much that Ben Affleck is the problem, it's that his sequences where he goes at thugs violently throws people off. But I wonder, why is Batman killing such an issue if other heroes can, for example, destroy buildings and freely kill others as needed? When people cite Jesse Eisenberg's Lex as a bad villain, this throws me off even more. Sure, his Lex isn't quite like previous portrayals of the iconic villain, but perhaps that's the point? With Lex, it is very easy to become so overly focused on his antics and quips that one could easily overlook his villainous acts. Throughout the film, we see him do just about any and everything to win, and in certain regards, he did. But I feel Lex's evil was a necessary evil for Dawn of Justice. Superman already made a fateful choice to kill Zod, a choice I support, and in Dawn of Justice, he pretty much has to willingly fight Batman to the death in order to rescue his mother. But admittedly, Superman himself gets the worst of it. Aside from being called brooding, depressed, non-happy, and just about every single negative name you could be called, Henry Cavill's impossible good looks are seemingly not enough to win over the masses. But look at all that Clark has had to go through. Since he has set foot on the Earth, he has been divisively received. And that is part of the realism Zack wisely chose to incorporate for Superman's story. People critique Jonathan for quote-unquote telling Clark not to use his powers, but they seemingly overlook how some seem to despise him. So it is therefore very plausible why Clark is unsure of his role as this world's Superman. It makes perfect sense why he's uncertain at times. It makes sense why a man who has these abilities is not quote-unquote always smiling. Which brings me to his death. Because again, I see a lot of butthurt and trolling in the comment section over, oh, his death was stupid and had no meaning. Death of Superman, boo. And, you know, some of the trolls I see give me a good chuckle every now and then. But for someone to say Superman's death had no meaning or served no purpose in Dawn of Justice is outrageous. Like, did you watch the movie? Or are you just agreeing with what the so-called professional critics had to say? So again, let's look at things. Superman does these heroic acts, saves people from impending doom. Yet a lot of the public around him either are afraid of him or simply dislikes him. On top of all of this, he has to willingly fight Batman, who is fully intent on killing Superman, I might add, and save Lex from Doomsday, and kill Doomsday to save us. That's right, us. Those who feared, disliked, and hated Superman. So Superman's death certainly served enough purpose. Who else would have stopped Doomsday had not Superman given up his own life? The military? The fucking Air Force? Please. They couldn't even handle Zod and his army. Damn! Superman's death was responsible for a lot of things. And much like the Martha scene, some quickly dismiss its significance because they fail to understand the impact. Because you see, at the end of Dawn of Justice, Bruce tells Diana that men are still good. She herself came into this world adorably naive and believing that stopping one man would stop all evil. The question of good and evil is very prevalent throughout Dawn of Justice. So as opposed to lighthearted or fun, we get dark and somewhat realistic. And personally, I can't fault Dawn of Justice for going this route. In fact, the movie being dark shouldn't be a critique at all, because the same approach was seen in the Nolan films. The only differences were everybody basically adores Christopher Nolan, and everybody was glad to see a Batman trilogy that worked. Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice's reception has bothered me for quite some time. Not because people have an opinion, but because they do seem to go overboard with the criticism with anything Zack Snyder directs. The movie wasn't afraid to cross the line, even in the theatrical cut. And this in itself is a problem for casual filmgoers, and even some comic fans who are unwilling to accept differences in these characters. Ironically and unsurprisingly, Snyder's Ultimate R-rated edition was very well received, so much so that critics agreed that this version would have been received better had it been released in theaters. Oh, would you look at that? Zack Snyder did something right after all.